So, ladies and gentlemen, you are about to watch a clip from Roundtable Sports. Make sure you subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a live stream. Now, this is powered by BetUS, hands down the best sportsbook on the face of the planet. For money lines, for over-unders, point spreads, player props, BetUS is where you want to be this NFL season. Now, a lot of sportsbooks come out and they try pushing these promos, but folks, BetUS hands down has the best promo on the face of the planet. They're matching 125% of your first 3 deposits all the way up to $2,000. That is right, folks. If you sign up with that link in our description, that promo is all yours. Certainly go check out BetUS and enjoy the clip.
Let's get into the discussion of the day. And Mr. Bucks Nation, I want to bounce this one to you because I want you to tell me, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, what is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' biggest weakness right now and their biggest weakness heading into the 2024 season?
I think it's still the pass rush, man. I think it's still something that's a concern for the Bucks, right? Like, yeah, some of the backups did good. You had Jose Ramirez get 3 sacks, and that's awesome. But like, we haven't seen any of the starters play yet, and that's what I'm worried about. I mean, goodness, I think we talked about this on the first show here on the NFC South Roundtable. That hasn't gone away for me. That worry. Look, you have Yaya Diaby as your lead sacker from last year with 7.5 sacks. Him going into year number 2, can he be the top guy in your pass rush? We don't fully know, right? With Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, he's been a guy that's gotten average about 4 sacks per year for the former first-round pick. Is he a guy that can step up? We don't know, right? Those guys are expected to be your 2 starters. So, yeah, there's a lot of concern there. Also factor in that Randy Gregory never showed up, and he just got released. And, yeah, there's a lot of concern here with the pass rush. They have a lot to prove, in my opinion, in terms of what they need to do, what they need to accomplish, because they haven't really done it yet. And it's definitely something that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and so do you see anybody on the open market or anybody that the Buccaneers could currently trade for, or even right before the trade deadline, that could help you guys? Because pass rush is so important. I mean, getting to the opposing quarterback, preventing them from being able to make plays. You know, there's some really good quarterbacks in the NFC. Obviously, you miss out on Matthew Judon. Maybe Hassan Reddick is still out there. We know he requested a trade. The Jets said no, but you never really know. Anybody that you could currently see as being a target, or are you confident with your team's ability to scheme things up defensively to get some alternative pressure?
Well, you know, you asked, like, is there anybody out there on the trade market? I was going to say jokingly, Matt Judon. You know, I wish they would have traded for Matt Judon, but, you know, it didn't happen. And whenever Hassan Reddick is a name that is out there, right? I ultimately believe that the Jets will not trade him. You know, we talked about that, I think it was last week. Mm-hmm. If I was the Bucks, I would call and say, hey, look, if you guys do decide that you're going to have to trade this guy, keep the Bucks in mind, right? I think that that's something just to do your due diligence. Besides that, there's not really a ton of guys that have been out there on the trade market. You know, as far as the Bucks are concerned, am I confident in the Bucks pass rush right now? No, I think I've made that pretty obvious. But the organization has made it clear that they are confident in their pass rush and the young guys that they have there and wanting to grow and develop this team. And look, the Bucks had 48 sacks last year. They were still a top half team in terms of sacks in the league last year. So they can generate pressure. I think a lot of my colleagues here know, like, Todd Bowles blitzes like nobody's business. He will send so many freaking blitzes in a game. So to your point, Colby, you know, he can scheme pressure, but one guy I would want them to consider, and look, there's been no, you know, connections to this player and the Bucks, but like Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. And he's a guy that, yes, last year did not have the greatest season in the world, but before that, you're looking at a guy that was averaging 8 sacks per season. He's a guy that could come in and be a starting pass rusher for the Bucks. Now, he did have a very bad ankle injury last year. How is he recovering from that? Where is he at health-wise? We don't know, but you've seen all the other NFC South guys go out and sign a free agent. Jadeveon Clowney went to the Carolina Panthers. Chase Young went to the New Orleans Saints. Matthew Judon is now on the Atlanta Falcons. The Bucks haven't done that. Yes, they got Chris Braswell in the second round, but They haven't brought in really an outside free agent besides Randy Gregory, and that didn't go well. So maybe now I think it's time for them to kind of take a second swing at that opportunity there, get their own kind of outside free agent type of pass rusher, and go out and go for a guy like a Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah, and really over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks max, we're going to see some players on the move, between surprising players getting cut, between teams saying, this is a guy that was on our bubble. He has some value, but he's not going to make our team. We're going to ship him off via trade. There will be teams still making moves, right? Especially when it comes to the waiver wire. I know some teams were already making moves. So that's definitely something to watch, is that although it's going to be roster cutdowns in a couple of weeks, just because a guy isn't currently on the team doesn't mean he won't be on your 53 or won't be on your team come week 1. But smooth, Smitty, let's kick it on over to you, buddy. What is your biggest weakness for the Atlanta Falcons currently, and their biggest weakness heading into 2024?
I'm gonna still go at right tackle, and in the NFC South, with key pass rushers, I think that right tackle position is going to be key. With Caleb McGarry, in the run game, I think he's superior, but when it comes to pass blocking, he's still a little suspect. And you saw that at the end of last year. This is why Storm Norton took over, and mainly why they brought Storm Norton back. So that is still a glaring hole for the Atlanta Falcons going into the regular season. Can they fix it? Yes. But honestly, I think it's going to be a battle between Caleb McGarry and Storm Norton for that right tackle position. So that is really the only glaring weakness that I see for the Atlanta Falcons on their roster.
Yeah, and I feel like there just isn't enough good offensive linemen in the league, right? Like there is a surplus of a need, but there's just not enough players to go around. A lot of teams looking, especially for tackle help, whether it's left tackle, whether it's right tackle, and especially for the Atlanta Falcons. Like right now with Kirk Cousins, he's throwing with his right arm, right? So the blind side is going to be over on the left tackle. As long as you have that figured out for this season, you're going to be fine. But whenever Michael Penix takes over, you are going to want to make sure that that right side is solidified, because that's going to be Penix's blind side with him throwing with his left hand. Is there anybody on the open market, Smitty, that you want to see the Atlanta Falcons currently go after, pin in their right tackle? I know there's really not a lot of great names out there, but we do have some big key veteran names who, yeah, they're on the decline of their career, but they were really good at one time. Do you want to see the Falcons bring in a veteran there to kind of help staple that offensive line and give you guys some depth there at tackle?
I don't really think that's necessary, man. I just think with the way the cap is right now for the Atlanta Falcons, I think they're really confident in what they have on that right side. But still, I think with Caleb McGarry's problem with speed rushes, it's still a concern with me, man. And if there's a guy on the market that I think the Falcons should have looked at, it probably was Stephen Gilmore, but he ended up signing with the Minnesota Vikings because I think the number 2 position at cornerback is still up in the air. But the way Clark Phillips is adjusting, going into his second season, I think he's going to take that number 2 spot. But it's still kind of a concern because he's still young.
Wow. Could you imagine on the Atlanta Falcons defense, Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, Stephon Gilmore? I mean, if you guys made that move, you might have immediately become the best, if not a top 3 defensive unit easily in the entire National Football League. I mean, man, would that have been a sight to see. As a fan of a team in the AFC, I wouldn't have minded to see it. As you know, the rest of you being fans of a team in the same division, I'm sure you're probably praising the gods that did not happen. But Timothy, let's go ahead and let's kick it to you. Biggest weakness currently on the Saints?
The offensive line. I mean, look no further than that. As a staff, organization, and crew, I mean, the whole line, you know what I'm saying? Like, for the exception of maybe Tallahassee Fuaga, the first round pick out of Oregon State, Eric McCoy, definitely becoming like one of the best centers. Cesar Ruiz, he kind of up and down. I mean, but look no further than Trevor Penning. I mean, to me, the guy is a bust. He's not very good. I mean, he's basically is a guy that always fall for the swim move, spend more time on his feet. I mean, on the ground than on his feet. I mean, it's pretty bad, man. And I definitely feel like going into the season with him as your right tackle, I just think that the Saints are basically setting themselves up for failure. and whoever quarterback that they have back there is probably going to get themselves injured. I mean, you only can cover up this guy for so long. And I just think that the most upsetting thing about all of this, in my opinion, is there's nobody behind him that can take his spot. So that's telling to me. So the offensive line of the New Orleans Saints, yeah, it's pretty bad. But right tackle is definitely a need. Left guard, they got Lucas Patrick from the Chicago Bears. It seemed like they're going to try to roll with him, but I'm not very high on him either. So right tackle and left guard are the two positions across the offensive line that I'm looking at that the Saints desperately need some help there.
Yeah, and I kind of want to kick the same question to you that I asked Smitty, and that is there anyone on the open market right now that maybe you want to see them go after? I would say, is there anybody you want to see them trade for? But I just feel like quality tackles, you never really see those guys be traded for. If anything on roster cutdowns, you see depth guys. I mean, you see teams trading a 6th or a 7th round pick, maybe a 5th round pick for an offensive lineman, but that's more of a depth piece. That's nobody that's truly going to step in and be a starting caliber player for you on the offensive line. Now, I know you didn't say left tackle, but maybe you can kind of figure things out and maybe put one of these veterans over on the right side and have them make that transition. But DJ Humphries, David Bakhtiari, I mean, both of these guys still free agents, both looking for homes. Would you like to see the Saints go after one of them?
Well, I know for a fact, and this comes from somebody really close to David Bakhtiari. He doesn't want to play on turf. He doesn't want to play in a dome. That came from one of his representatives. So I know a lot of teams, like, they're interested in him. But the fact that you actually are playing in a dome, you're going to play at least 9 dome games if you add the Atlanta Falcons to it. I don't think that he will like that. If I'm trying to solve this issue, Kobe, it's going to have to be through a trade. And I think that you look at a team like the Chicago Bears. They're pretty deep when it comes to the offensive line. And I was looking at Larry Borom, a guy who rated very highly in pass protection. I think he's like at 89%, succession rate there. So I think that he would be a really good fix. I'm not really looking at these seasoned veteran type guys, 30, 33, 34 years old, because I'm a realist when it comes to the Saints. And right now, they need youth, right? They got too many veterans. And I feel like when you're getting guys like, 33, 34, you probably feel like you got a chance to actually making a Super Bowl run or something like that. So right now, I just feel like they need to focus on maybe just getting somebody just here, maybe somebody young. If they prove themselves, maybe you can actually sign them. But I don't think the problem is going to be solved with the New Orleans Saints until 2025. But if you're going to try to solve it, I would say you'll probably have to trade. And Larry Borom from the Chicago Bears would definitely be one of the top guys. Also, Tyree Phillips. He was with the New York Giants. He's starting to get healthy. He had a injury. He was sidelines and he's rehabbing. According to his agent, he's about to be back on the market. He got some really positive news. So I just think that you want to fix this issue, but you also want to add some youth to this offensive line, because to be honest with you, if you don't, then you're going to be right back at square one in 2025, and that's something that you don't want.
Yeah, I agree with you. Clay, let's go ahead and let's kick it on over to you. What is the biggest weakness? And look, I'm sure that you're probably going to get a lot of smack from everybody in the comment section being like, oh, well, Clay's probably going to have a hard time picking just one. But what is the biggest weakness of the Carolina Panthers, your biggest torn Achilles this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, everybody in the chat's probably gonna say the whole team, really, but no, I think really there's more than one, right? And I'll just break it down real quick, and then I'll give you my number one. I mean, the first center, all right. Even though Andrew Rahm, the undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma, looked pretty solid in the last preseason game, but we made some moves for me to feel like this depth has been, from the offensive line standpoint, has gotten better with the moves that they made. And they brought in guys this past week. They brought in 3 guys. So Mason Brooks, Jack Anderson, right? And then they also brought in Tyler Smith. So they've added depth to the offensive line. I'm okay with that. I think another people the Panthers would say is edge rusher. Yannick Ngakoue's out there. There's guys like Carl Lawson, I think, is still out there. There's some other guys out there, but Shaq Lawson. I apologize. Henry Anderson's still out there, but the number one for me is corner. The reason why I say corner is because J.C. Horn has not been able to stay healthy throughout his career. That's been his biggest thing. Now, right now, he looks like an absolute stud. He's changed up his whole regimen. Yeah, it has to be corner because Dane Jackson just went down with a significant hamstring injury. He's going to be out for 6 weeks. So to me, even though we've had these backups, like I mentioned earlier, the secondary look well, I can't put all my money and bet on that secondary is going to hold it down if J.C. Horn goes down and even if Dane Jackson's aboard. I feel like we need another veteran on this team.